This video will be the start of section 3, and the purpose of section 3 is to add spacing around the things in our website. But we're going to have to work up to it a little bit. So I can start by closing out of my files. We'll make a new folder for this section. New folder, 3-1. In this first video, we're going to look at three things: a div, an ID, and a class. ID, div, and class. Just going to write it there so you can remember where it is. Inside here, let's make an HTML file. We give it the same name. .html. And in a second, we'll start writing out the code. But since we've done this a few times and we know that things get a little repetitive, we do an HTML, we do a head, we do a body, we can kind of shortcut that a little bit here. Let's have ourselves a template that we can just copy and paste in. That way we're not spending too much time constantly writing the same code over and over again. To do this, I'm just going to close out of my folders for now. And kind of at this level here, I'm going to make a new file. So this is at my first website project directory, so outside these folders. I'm just going in the space right here and right-clicking and doing new file. I'm just going to call this template.html. Click return. This template is what I want to have be the same on all my websites. We know they all start with an HTML. We know they usually have a head. We know they usually have a body. And in the head now, since we're using CSS, we can add in link CSS. It's always going to be a style sheet, but we're not always going to call it style.css. Let's exit that out. So this is how most of our websites are going to begin. And rather than type this out every time, let's just keep this here. So I'm going to save this. And now, let's say I'm working on this file right here, the ID div class. I don't want to write all that out. So I'm going to go to my template, click it. The shortcut to select everything is Control A. You can also drag and highlight it, but Control A will highlight it all, Control C, and then just paste it in here. And that's what I'm going to do from now on. I'm not going to type this out every time. So you'll have this template here, just copy and paste from it. All right, so we made the template. We also need the CSS file, so let's make that as well. New file. I'm going to give it the same name, ID div class.css. Click return. And then I'm going to link them, making sure to link my CSS file. Okay. So we made the files, we made our template. Let's close that down. And let's make a few things in our body. The first thing I make is called a div. Div, I think, stands for division. It's just a section of your code. Div is kind of like the wild card of tags. It doesn't have any specific properties. It's just something we can use if we just want to create space. It's not a paragraph, it's not a header. It doesn't really have a formal definition. It's just saying, hey, here's a section. Write whatever you want in that section. So we could write, here is my first div. Maybe I'll call it div1 for now, just to be quicker. Div1. I'm going to do Control-C, Control-V to copy this. Control-C. I'm going to paste it a few times. So I'm just doing Control-V here to create a few different ones. So I made, let's just do 6 to make an even number. Made 6 different divs here. If you save this and go to File Explorer and open it up, you will see basically just the text of those. So you can see div1, div2, div3, blah, blah, blah. Now again, the purpose of this is maybe we don't want this to be a paragraph or a header. It's not one of those things. Maybe we want to create our own thing, something different than a paragraph or header. So div is just a generic tag, just something we can use to wrap text in. Okay, we can apply CSS to it though. So let's go ahead, let's drag this over here. And if we want to change all of the divs, we are going to write div, that means the div tag, and then our curly brackets, return, and then the thing we want to change. So if we want to change the color, that'll be the text color. Let's just do blue for now. Click Save. Bring our file back. Click Refresh. And now it's changed every single div. They've made them all blue. Okay, so nothing out of the ordinary there, nothing we haven't done before. But our kind of second and third topics we're going to look at in this video are what are called IDs and what are called classes. ID and classes are attributes we can add to HTML tags that give us more control over our CSS and other properties. So here you notice when we did div and then we did color blue, everything became blue. But maybe we want something else to be red. Well, right now, whatever we say there applies to everything. We don't have control over the individual elements. We can do that with an ID though. In this second div 2, let's say we wanted this one to be different. We want it to have a red color instead of a blue color. We can give it an ID in its opening tag. So after div space, you need the space here, ID, tab, and I'll say equal quotations, and then you have the power to give it an ID. Think of the ID as the name of this thing here. So you're giving it a name so we know it's not just any div, it is this specific div. So I'll write second div. Again, you have control over this. You can spell it however you want. It is going to be case sensitive though. So if you do a lowercase here and an uppercase here, in a second when we write that in our CSS, they have to match. I'll show you that in a minute. So by doing this, we are saying, here are a bunch of divs, but this one is special. This one is called second div. And we can reference that in the CSS here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And over here, when we reference a tag in general, we just write the tag, div. But if you reference an ID, you do hashtag. Like you can imagine like you're tweeting or something, like hashtag and then the ID's name. What I encourage you to do is just go over here, click twice in it, it'll highlight it, Control C, copy it, Control V. The reason I'm encouraging you to do this is because you won't make a mistake with writing the case sensitive bit. Like you won't accidentally forget the V or something. It's going to be exactly the same. So I know that this second div and this second div are the same spelling, same casing. Now that we've referenced the ID, we can follow the same syntax as our earlier CSS selectors. And I'll just do color red. Not that Rebecca purple. Okay, let's save it. Let's go over here, do a little refresh. Okay, and now div 2 is unique. It's its own thing. And over here we can see that if we had this thing that says, hey, be blue, but down here it says, hey, be red, the second one here is going to get the precedence. So this div 2 thinks it needs to be both blue and red, but it's reading this one last, so it's going to do that second. Okay, and so now we have a unique ID here. You could do this again. You could do it with like div 6. I could do ID equals 6th div. I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. Control C, Control V, 6th div. Let's do green here. And let's say I didn't copy this. Let's say I made a mistake and I just wrote 6, or let's do uppercase 6th div. These two things are technically different. This one has a capital S, this one has a lowercase s. If I were to save this and save my HTML, I gotta save both. Don't forget to save the HTML because we added this here. If I run over here and click refresh, oh, maybe it does work. Maybe I'm wrong about that, so that the casing here is okay. I thought it would error out, but maybe not. I know for sure it'll error out if we misspell it. So if we save like this and refresh, oops, it didn't get activated because I made a spelling mistake. But apparently I'm wrong. I guess it's not case sensitive here. Let's check one more time. Lowercase here, uppercase there. Oh, it's green. All right, so I am wrong about that, but we should be consistent here. Let's keep them the same for now, just because there are other parts of coding languages that might not that might be stricter than our CSS is being here. All right, so that is the CSS, that is the ID. I think we will cover the classes in the next video.